Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Kyle. How you doing, boy?
Not bad, not bad. We survived through 2 game weeks of the congested fixtures. One more to go. And it's deadline day. Only 30 minutes till the window closes.
Yeah, perfect way to kind of timestamp it, right? 11:30 p.m. BST. Quick math, 6:30 p.m. EST.
There you go.
Yeah, so you think we're going to get any surprises? I mean, one of the things I do want to quickly do is run through the, quick list of names and see if you're going to draft or not draft any of these assets. But yeah, any surprises? You expecting anything?
With 30 minutes to go, not really. I feel like everything that was rumored is either come true or the door's being shut on it. So at this point, let's just see what gets over the line, and then let's see how these assets bed in, and then ultimately find a starting spot in some of these squads, like Nottingham Forest with 22 or 23 or 20 a million new players. I don't even know where they're gonna play these players, man.
I saw the Batshuayi signing and I was like, yeah, I'm done.
I don't get any of this. Nothing makes sense. I feel like last pod I tried to defend it. You're just spending ahead of the money that you expect to earn, and if you of course stay up, then it's an investment. But I don't know, at 22 players, mathematically it's depth at every position, but it's a little bit overwhelming. It'll really be a test of Steve Cooper's man management skills.
I mean, I think he's capable, based on his CV, etc., and what he's done. He seems like a sound guy. I heard on a different podcast, he basically looks like a high weasel.
I won't comment on anybody's appearance, but I could see that.
Yeah. Shout out to the boys at FML, FPL. Fucking love those guys, man. Hilarious duo. Okay. So before we jump into the meat of the pod, I need to do the biz end of things and plug the socials. So I'm gonna do that right here.
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BanterB. On Discord, in the Draft PL channel, Banter Boys, #6585. On Reddit, /Banter_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the name of Banter Boys.
All right. So if this is your first time listening to the Banter Boys podcast, welcome. We cover everything Fantrax related. We dabble in some other formats, but this is what we mainly talk about, right? So usually, we have 2 halves and, 2 segments each, but because it's a quick turnaround, we're again gonna keep things really, really simple. Are we gonna do picks this time first or data dump first? What do you want to do?
We could do picks.
Picks? All right, we'll jump into the picks in the first half, and then take our halftime pint, and then jump back into the second half with a couple of questions that we got on Twitter from our fans and listeners, and then round things off with our data dump. So basically, we just look at scoring categories in the default scoring of the game. That is about it. Before we get started, I do want to quickly run through these names. We don't have to talk about them in depth just for the sake of time. Just be draft or no draft, or how much fab would you roughly drop on them. But that's a very weird one to say, right? Yeah, because it depends on how wild your league is.
Let's just go draft, no drafts, or pick up, no pickup. Let's go.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So the list that I'm looking at is from the ESPN website, so I'm not sure how much you trust the soccer side of things, but Anthony from Ajax to Manchester United, 95 million euros.
Draft. Easy.
Manuel Akanji from Dortmund to Man City.
Given the state of City's center backs, I would say draft.
Okay.
Stash.
Yeah, good shout. Willy Bolly, one of many signings to Nottingham Forest.
Do not draft.
Oh wow, I didn't even realize Leander Dendoncker went to Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think that might be a draft. Of course, that's part of, well, in preparation, let's see, of Douglas Luiz moving. So they got insurance instead of waiting to see if the move gets done or not. So I think that might be a draft, but let's see, because I'm kind of out on all Villa at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Dendonka has those days he can put up like close to 20 or close to 0, right? So it depends.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And with Steven Gerrard in charge at this point, I feel like it's close to 0 more likely than not.
Yeah, true. Do they have 0 points in the league so far?
No, did they?
No,
Yeah,
Leicester's at the bottom, I think.
Yeah, Leicester, after just coming off another defeat, they're still at the bottom of the table. So Stevie G lives to fight another day, I guess, but they're not too far ahead. They only have the one win, right? They're on 3 points. Same goal difference
They
as Leicester.
won a game? When did they win?
I can't even remember.
Jesus.
But they did win. They won
That's
against...
crazy.
Who did they win against? Villa.
It feels like so long ago.
I know.
Like, Aston Villa
Holy.
know how to win football games? That baffles me.
It's forever ago. Yeah, we could skip past
All
talking
right.
about Villa.
Samuel Edozie going to
No.
Southampton.
Do not draft. There's another City youth player going to join all the others that have gone on to Southampton this window.
Wout Faze from what team?
Stade de Reims.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah,
I was
I
like
think-
looking at REIM and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I think it's a draft. With Fofana moving, they swooped in and picked up a seemingly reliable starting center back. So I think it might be a draft.
Yeah, he looks like a Poundland version of David Luiz.
He does.
Uh-huh.
A cheap
All right.
imitation.
Yeah, exactly. Idrissa Gueye from PSG to Everton. I'm really excited about this one, actually.
Yeah, I mean, a name that's back in the Premier League. I want to say draft, but I feel the same way about Everton as I feel about Villa right now. Like, I don't want any other assets.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ignore the ones that went off to foreign leagues, obviously. This one will definitely sound familiar. Willian to Fulham.
I want to say do not draft because I haven't seen this guy play in however long. But, I mean, he's still, 32 years old. He's not, retired. The only thing that I guess you would want to look out for is... apparently Dan James is going to Fulham. He already finished his medical, and he's going there as well. So I don't know what their front three will look like. So I want to wait and see who's going to be putting the crosses into Mitrovic. If Willian does get a starting spot, he might become a draft.
Oh, you know what? I immediately thought of Nottingham Forest when I saw all these signings. It's like the owners playing Ultimate FIFA, just opening up packs.
Yep.
And it's like a
Pretty
new
much.
card every
Pretty
single
much.
time.
It's
All
crazy.
right, yeah, it's wild, man. All right, the next asset, Dubravka from Newcastle to Manchester United.
Yeah, do not draft. Backup goalie to De Gea. You weren't drafting him when he was behind Pope, so I don't think you draft him when he's behind De Gea.
Yeah. Levin Kurzawa from PSG to Fulham.
I want to put him in the Mbabu camp. I know you are very high on him, but I want to say he's just going to be stuck behind Anthony Robinson. And I think he didn't play any games at PSG last year, or very little. And I imagine he's just going to be sitting as a backup unless Robinson gets injured.
Can't Kurzawa play centre back as well?
I guess, but is there a need for him to come in? Tim Reamy's playing
true.
well.
Adarabioyo.
Yeah,
as well.
Adarabioyo, Tosin Adarabioyo.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a need for him to come in. I think he's just going to be a backup at this point.
Yeah. Arthur from Juventus to Liverpool.
I want to say do not draft. But right now, with
All their midfielders are injured.
that's what I was going to say. But right now, with their midfield position being decimated, I would imagine that he's going to get playing time. So I think it's somebody that you do have to draft because he's playing at Liverpool and presumably going to start. But I'm not as high on. I mean, I don't have any reason to be high or not high, but I just don't have good feelings about this one. I don't know. He reminds me of Saul last year going to Chelsea, or Thiago coming over and then getting injured. I don't know. I want to see him in the Premier League and see if he could cut it, right?
Yeah. Just got some messages in my DMs. Apparently, the Batshuayi deal is now off. The documents were not sent in time. However, they did manage to sign Serge Aurier and Bade or Bade. I don't know. So they lost one and then signed an extra one. Just in
there
case.
you go. That's fine. I mean, I feel like we could not talk about this stuff, given that when our listeners are listening, it will be after the deadline is closed, and they'll know what happened or did not happen, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to run through any last ones quickly, maybe what's his face? Bednarak gone to Aston Villa.
I have no clue. They've rotated their center back partnerships, and I want to say the wing backs have been nailed.
Yeah,
but Bednarak, I don't even know who will he play over. He's not going to play over Cash or Luka Dean.
Yeah,
so he's not going to be a wing back. And center backs, I don't want a center back on Villa, right? So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We sound defeated every time we talk about Villa. I'm sorry, any Villa fans that are listening.
All right. So enough about these signings and stuff. Yeah, you're right. People just go pull up these tables and message us. I don't know, DM us about it after. Or check out there's accounts on the Twitter community that project possible points and all that. Guys like Draft Lad. I don't know how much it is actually true. I never actually followed up on it, but yeah, I mean, it gives you like a perspective at least, right? By the way, we've got our first managerial sacking as well. Scotty Parker. I don't know if you saw Brendan Rodgers' comments after the match tonight as well. He's actually came out and said how the board has not supported him, not given any new signings. Funny enough, Scott Parker said the same right before his sacking. So a bit harsh on Scott Parker, given his 3 clubs that he faced out of the 4.
I don't think Arsenal, it's harsh though, right? Like I think it's one of these things where it's not really a sacking. It was a mutual termination. Like he clearly didn't want to be there. On the back of that defeat, he came out and said that they could obviously suffer a similar defeat again this season. And if you're not philosophically aligned, and these guys aren't like us that need to hold a job. They can afford to speak their minds, especially if they're speaking their minds in public, right? So in reality, not saying that he is or he has something lined up, but if the stress ain't worth it, then speak your piece and carry on, right? He'll either find something in the commentary box or punditry world to keep him busy, or he'll just be like Sean Dyche, rolling up to stadiums and chilling in the stands and watching games, right? Like, or he could just go and chill at home and take a nice deserved vacation after, I don't know, last 2 years. Job. Yeah, everybody needs a good vacation.
Yeah, that's true. I quickly have some stats that we kind of dropped in the group chat that I do want to run through, and I don't know if you have any thoughts or comments after them. So apparently, like Haaland has been killing it. I don't know if to say apparently. He's been fucking smashing it, breaking records and everything already, right?
Yep.
I mean, the EPL table is already shaping up quite nicely at the moment. Arsenal sitting undefeated in first, Man City in second, Spurs third on 11, and then Brighton in fourth, right? Chasing that European football. But so Man City has actually been outperforming their XG by 6.2 goals. For context with the other clubs, Arsenal plus 2.5, Spurs plus 2.5, Chelsea negative 0.8, Liverpool plus 4.9, right? But obviously that was helped by smashing Bournemouth 9-0. Yeah, I mean, one other thing is that I also got DM'd was apparently Arsenal, even though they've only conceded 4 goals in the Premier League season, their average time before replying to conceding is 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Thoughts on any of these numbers, Kyle?
I mean, the City XG is to be expected.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like the Haaland impact is stated again, and
do you regret selling him? Or trading
no,
him out.
No, I mean, I have no regrets on anything. The season is long, man. To predict that he will be able to sustain this, not through the fact that there's a World Cup in the middle and he might not be going, but his other playmakers and creators and team members or teammates will be gone. So it's one thing to say that this is going to be the status quo for the rest of the season, but like, damn, like, or I'll be damned not to dream that he can do it and smash the goals record, and City does ridiculous things. Even though I'm a United fan, like, it would be impressive to see how long they could keep it up. And yeah, honestly, like, it's one thing to say, hey, like, and I saw that, not wanting to skip too far ahead, but like, that was the question coming in, right, to the season. Will he live up to the hype? And was he worth going 1.1, right? Like, would you actually have taken him first overall if you knew that he was going to actually perform? And most people were not feeling like adventurous enough to do that. And I don't want to say that those people have regrets, but I wouldn't have regrets at this point if I trade him or I give him up while he's still performing at this rate, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his numbers, he's pretty much just like, all his points are just the goals that he's scoring. If he doesn't score goals, he'd be as bust as Vardy.
But there's no proof that he can't or he will not score goals, right? Like, that's the weird thing, right? Like, a part of it is, of course, luck, quote unquote. If it's an outlier, if it's an aberration to the model, like, you would say, hey, it's not sustainable. But if you look at the movement and you look at some of the things that he's not obviously in our formats gonna get points for, he's still literally doing all the work to create these chances or to be in the right place to capitalize on these chances, right? So he gets points for goals, not XG. He gets points for, like, literally putting the ball in the back of the net, not doing all the other little things that everybody else around him is doing to ultimately have him cash in on, right? So I think it's somewhat reflective of all the others around him performing and him having ridiculous movement and strength and pace. It's like the FIFA stats, right? Stuff that will not show up in fantasy. Or that's a different type of fantasy, right? That's a different simulation type of game. Ours is like a fantasy based on, hey, this is in theory how we would ascribe value to the actions on the pitch.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I mean, before we move on, I'm really glad we're not doing league updates because, yeah, that league is not going well at the moment for either one of us.
We got destroyed.
Funny enough, the boys that aren't recording are doing better than us at the moment. So, take from that what you will. I mean, kudos, you did win something this game week. You won a bet, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I won a couple bets. I won a cheeky punt on the game today as well. Like.
Okay. I mean, should we shout out the website? I don't know if any of their employers or employees are listening. Maybe they might sponsor the pod moving forward. You never know, right?
I mean, any of them. I won't single out any. I'd say my platform of choice is FanDuel, but in reality, I'm not. Or I can be bought. I'd say I can be bought. Yeah. So if somebody wants to sponsor, insert like your name here.
Yeah.
But in reality, yeah, like I haven't been a big gambler like on either in-game action or on results before the game week. But I find myself in a lot of conversations where you feel confident in something and you just ultimately should probably follow it up, especially if they give you $3 to bet. So yesterday it was the Liverpool game. And from a fantasy perspective, of course, everybody already had Haaland, and someone I was talking to was saying, oh, they need a Salah haul. And I was like, nah, this game is only going to be 2-1. And then 1 minute later, I was like, I should put a bet on that. So I just put a cheeky bet on it, and that paid off. And then today, very similar, tied to hedging my Fantrax outcome. I needed Vardy to score, and I figured he might disappoint me again because now that I play him, of course, he's going to disappoint me. So I went United to score and there to be under 1.5 goals. So that was also a cheeky 7-1 bet. So I hit 2 7-1 bets on back-to-back days. So clearly that's actually my secret. Only bet if it's like 7-1 odds.
Yeah, fair enough. How much did Vardy end up scoring for you this game week?
I don't even know. I lost. Like, you think I look at my team after that? I was on to the next game week, man. I think honestly he had like 1.5 points. He had 3 aerials, and that was literally all his contribution.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, at least we're getting a manager video out of it, so.
Yes, that will be coming.
Shout out to Adam, Ken Bob. I think it's 1989 for the idea. Yeah, we implemented it in our league now. It's a riot.
They however, will not be posted on Twitter.
Oh yeah. We're gonna keep that shit private unless you like send me money. Then I might DM you it. I don't know. I'll share it with Kyle. He might approve.
Nope.
All right, let's move on to these picks, man. So basically we're just gonna chat about picks that are under 50% owned, or maybe on that 50% threshold, right? Just because we think you'll have an easier time for you to obtain these picks. So I'm gonna go with home picks. Kyle, you can go with away picks, and kicking us off is the Merseyside derby, Everton versus Liverpool. So for Everton, I don't know if I'd suggest defensive picks, just because I mean Liverpool are like just score goals for fun at times, even though Salah I want to say is been more creative than actually scoring goals this season. So typically like I would avoid maybe Patterson 7% owned and Pickford 33% owned. Maybe Pickford might get you some save points. Patterson is just on my list because last game versus Leeds, he kind of ended up in the box and had a shot on goal. And I feel like he will have some kind of attack and return at some point this season, right? So it's just something to kind of monitor. But I would definitely keep an eye on Idrissa Gueye. I saw he was like 100% rostered, and I'm just assuming that Fantrax is just fucking up because no way would they have cleared waivers so quickly on deadline day.
Yeah, that's just how they add it, and then it shows up as 100%. But it'll then go to null right afterwards or something.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense because I saw Willian on 100% and I was very confused.
Yeah.
So Onana 17% owned and Iwobi 39% owned are the more realistic picks that I'd be aiming for. Iwobi got his first attack and return for the season, and we've been shouting the steady Eddie, right? If he does get an attack and return, he's gonna get double-digit scores, which he did. And Onana is kind of ticking along in that midfield, but with the arrival of Idrissa Gueye, I'm not sure where he's going to fall in the pecking order, right? Maybe Tom Davies gets the chop because he's terrible. So,
and they just got James Garner as well. We didn't talk about that one earlier. But
bro, actually, let us talk about James Garner because as a Manchester United fan, you must be gutted to see him move on.
I mean, I would have liked to see him stay, but in reality, if we were not going to get rid of Scott or Fred, we added Casemiro. It was going to be hard for him to get game time in that midfield. So in reality, I don't hate it. I think all these big clubs, not to go off and not skip over Liverpool. Arguably, the Liverpool segment will be very short anyway. But what we see these big clubs doing are selling these starlets who aren't going to be actually fighting for game time, inserting either sell-on clauses or buyback clauses into those contracts and just recouping some of the big money, the costs for the big money sign-ins. So I see that as like a path that we've seen City do it a lot, and Chelsea's kind of thinking or starting to do it, even though Chelsea's spending just like United, like drunken pirates. So yeah, like in reality, like I think that a lot of these young players are leaving and going to good clubs, good situations. There's Billy Gilmore going to Norwich and James Garner, not to Norwich, to Brighton, sorry.
Yeah.
And,
actually really happy for him.
Yeah, and that's it. And all you could
like,
be
Graham Potter's a fantastic manager.
Yeah, and that's all you
can only get better.
That's all you could be happy for these kids, that they're going somewhere that hopefully they get playing time, and gives them a realistic shot at breaking into the Premier League. So I don't mind it. And I mean, if it was to shift gears to Liverpool, we talked about this player a little bit last week, but Fabio Carvalho, I think that he would be the one name that is still available that folks should go after. Of course, he got that last minute winner, and he's now returned in the last 2 games. So from that perspective, he's still pushing. He's still pushing to get game time, and he might be one of these players that doesn't, but is always going to be, as I say, off the bench as one of the first subs, and could be, depending on the game situation, thrust into a points haul, right? Like, I think Liverpool's bench currently looks most attractive for that. Same thing with Tsimikas. He didn't, of course, haul in the 2-1 win over Newcastle, but he had 2 assists in the 9-0 over Bournemouth. So I think those are the 2 most attractive names to me, sitting at 27% and 16%. And Joe Gomez is still sitting there at 45% as the currently nailed on centre back, but I'm more tentative on that with Matip returning from injury. So I think I'd stick to Carvalho and possibly Tsimikas.
Yeah, I didn't approve of that Kloppage time winner, by the way. That was
such is life.
Teeth-head.
Such is life.
All right, next game, Brentford versus Leeds. So one of my Brentford, well, I want to say my only Brentford correspondent, actually DM'd me and told me that Norgard is apparently in a boot, which is never a good sign, never good news. So that pretty much opens up midfield spot, right, at Brentford. So that's why I'm going to shout Janelt at 6% owned. I believe in his last 2 games, he did get attacking returns, but this guy's a baller, and I do believe he has the ability to ghost out when he's ready. He's a talented player. I've seen him play live and stuff like that. Yeah, he's a really good player. And maybe you could now kind of have a nailed Jensen, that sort of thing, right? Until Damsgaard, 22% owned, finds his way. I think off the bench he did get around 3 points. Nothing significant. I think it was like a key pass and a successful dribble, something like that. But I still do believe that he will end up getting a nailed spot. At least that's what I'm told as well. And the only other asset who is 0% owned is Zanka. And this might just be a temporary grab until the likes of Ayer is back in the squad. When Pinnock is back, like I feel like Zanka will just go back to the bench, that sort of thing. What about at Leeds?
Yeah, I think at Leeds, the attacking rotation will change. I mean, I feel like they did a decent amount of business at a deadline. So let's see how all has shook out. Rodrigo getting injured obviously means that, well, not obviously, but Bamford is back, so that'll cover for it. But Dan James is going out, and as I say, I don't even know the names of everybody that they're signed. Of course, Sinistera came in, and he's over 50% at this point, so we can't really shout him out, but he would be a name if he's available in your league that I would go after. Outside of that, I'd say Christensen is probably the most attractive name, and he's somebody that coming into the season we were high on, where you snuck in and got him before me off waivers, and then he's been dropped in a lot of leagues since and probably rotated hands across multiple managers. But he got a decent ghosty haul against Everton, ended on 8 points, and has a run of fixtures against Brentford and Nottingham. Well, Brentford immediately, obviously, and then Nottingham Forest after the international break, before United Villa Palace. So I think that might be one to watch as the teams come back, hopefully rested and fit. Like, his spot is nailed, so I think that he's one that I'd put high on the list. And then Robin Koch and Diego Llorente remain attractive assets. I think the defense overall is attractive, and they're still a bit underowned. So that's what I would call out as the spot to target.
Yeah, I'm only concerned about Koch and Llorente, given Liam Cooper's return to fitness.
Yeah, he came back to fitness, and then he went off, if I recall, right? So he's...
in the cup game or something like that, I think.
Well, I think he's still red flagged, so...
yeah.
Like, I'd say, yes, that's definitely... that's definitely still, like, something to be cautious of. You don't want to see him come back and steal, like, your pickup spot, but... yeah, I think it might still be a little bit of time, and I say you could monitor it over the international break as well. I think Firpo is also back in training as well, so there could be rotation in the Leicester back line, or not Leicester, Leeds, apologies. but I'd say there's still assets to own, and all of them are still, regardless of what combination ends up starting, all of them are outside of Pascal Strike, very sparsely owned.
All right. So next game, Chelsea versus West Ham. A couple of assets from my dump fire for club. God, we're playing so terrible right now.
Yo, Abba will fix that.
Oh, fuck off. Yeah, we'll see about that. Kovac is 28% owned, and Broya, I gotta give a shout to 18% owned. I mean, I think Broya matched Kai's points in the 18 minutes he played or something like that. He came as like a late sub. He even looked better than Kai as a striker or number 9. Though I think Kai's role will change with Oba's presence in the team as well. I just feel like Kai will probably thrive from having runners off of him. Kovacic, though, I think he put up 7 points as a sub. Yeah, he's a dribble merchant. He'll provide key passes to all those forward players. I think he's a definite grab when we've got so many midfield issues at the moment. I know we signed Zakaria, so who's to say how he's going to come in as an asset? It could be one of those steady eddies in the team. But yeah, I think Kova's a safe grab at the moment. What about West Ham?
At West Ham, I think we know this asset's already in the game, but I would call out Lucas Paqueta. I think he is now their record signing. Very intrigued to see how that one goes in this team that I think needs an attacking spark. They need a refresh. They haven't, or they look pretty flat to start the season. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes in directly into the 11 and how he ends up contributing towards that, right?
Moises is a stubborn old man, though.
Yeah, he came off the bench, though, right?
And got -2 points.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to see him come from a start, right? I think that's one of these things, and that was against Spurs, and I mean, not to say that Chelsea's not a big game as well, but I want to see what it looks like when he's starting and not coming off the bench, right? So I think that's the one that I am intrigued of. Intrigued.
I mean, Bowen's shitting the bed.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Their entire I said Benrahma, Bowen, who else said? Well, Cornet, who still didn't play yet, right?
I still can't believe they signed him.
Lanzini. I mean, they go through that list and none of them are doing anything. And that's one of these things where I would love to see Pablo Fornals. None of them intrigue me. So let's see if Paqueta can intrigue. And he's only at 17% owned. And then outside of that, if you want a more standard pick, and I don't think it's a good pick for this week, but Vladimir Soufal is at 38% owned. Ben Johnson is still injured, I believe. He had a concussion, so he wasn't ready to start. So Soufal came in, and I think that Soufal would be a name that I would possibly look at if you absolutely need someone. But as I said, Chelsea probably is not the matchup to add Soufal for.
I mean, I think he probably got his best score last game week. I think he got 8 points or something against Spurs. See, the thing is, the reason I threw him in there is because we will attack, but our attack is shit. So he'll probably defend well.
Yeah, that's fair. No, he had 7.25 against Spurs, but he had 10.75 off the bench, replacing Johnson the week before, right? So I think that he could do a good job defending. He has 4 key passes on the season, 10 interceptions, 7 dribbles, 3 crosses, 2 block shots, 5 aerials. He's a do-it-all type of player. My thing is, I would imagine that, as I say, if somebody was going for a defender, that might not be the first choice. These are still the early games as well, so you probably wouldn't be rushing to pick up somebody that's playing at 10 a.m. EST on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoffs, right? So if anything, you might roll the dice if you were short a defender all the way to the last games of the game week and see if you could get someone, but he's not a bad asset to have. He just might not be nailed on for his best fixtures, right?
Fair enough. All right. Next game, Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. I'm surprised Willock is still under 50% owned. I don't know what your leagues are doing. Go pick up this kid. He's just smashing ghosties left, right, and center, and is looking like he's due a goal very soon.
He looks really good. He's getting into the right positions. He's playing really far forward. he looks really, really good and lively. I think, as I said, we need to actually map out a chart to go along with our new nomenclature of steady eddies, because I think, to your point, like, he has a higher upside than somebody like it will be and Schlupp and some of these players that we expect to get like 8 points, 7-8 points on average every week, right? So, yeah, I think Joe Willock is grossly underowned at 39%.
So would we link that to their XG or XA then? The steady eddy points, and then kind of just grade them from there.
I don't think it's XG or XA, right? Because in this world, like, it's almost like well, it's X Ghost. If we had to do a different G, it'd be XGH. So I think that's it. Like, it's one of these things. I think there's other, of course, factors. The fact that they're nailed on and always going to be starting, and it's X Ghost almost. Because if I look at, and this, not to digress, but Willock has put up a low of over 5 games, a low of 6, and a high of 10. And in only, 3 of these games did he have any shots. He had at most 3, 2 and 2. In any of these games, he had 1 shot. The most he's had is 1 shot on target. He's not necessarily like jumping out every week on one stat, right? Like, he has 7 tackles won on a season, 7 clearances, 5 interceptions, 3 crosses, 2 dribbles, 3 block shots. Like, it could be this combination of all these things that add up to like 7 on a given week, right? And it could be different things depending on the game. But he's almost like fixture proof, I would say, right? Because if you look at
he's got a good run as well.
And he's already played Liverpool and City, and he had Wolves and Brighton, who've also, I'd say Brighton started obviously better than Wolves, and then he had Nottingham Forest to start the season, and that was his lowest points in that run was against Notts, right?
Damn.
So
interesting. I mean, his fixture run is Crystal Palace at home, West Ham away, Bournemouth at home, Fulham away, Brentford at home. Next 5.
Very attractive fixtures.
Yeah. POC of green. And the only outside shot would be Ryan Fraser, 5% owned. But again, this is purely an eye test thing, because I think he put up like 2.5 points or something like that. He had a pop at goal, made some attractive runs, that sort of stuff. He has a bit of a cross on him, and Isaac is tall as fuck, so I don't know if you want to gamble on that. What about Palace?
Man, I still don't know why this guy isn't owned like 100%, but is Joachim Andersen. The colossal.
I'm kind of upset I didn't grab him.
The colossal beast of the back, but who's always forward and always getting crosses in. I don't think there's anything left to be said. Like, we saw how disciplined they set up in the first game against Arsenal. They've had Arsenal, Liverpool, and City already, and he returned, I said, very similar to Willock. He returned a low of 7.25 in those games, 7.5 and 8. The only game he hasn't performed more than 7 points is against Villa, and he put up 4.75, and that was a resounding win for Palace, right? So I think he's one of these players who's nailed in his side, who contributes across the pitch in multiple ways, and depending on the game script, could get you different types of ghosties, right? So he has 41 clearances on the season, 13 aerials, 5 block shots, 6 interceptions, 3 key passes. If I recall correctly, I feel like all 3 of those were against Arsenal. Like, he's definitely like just like in the mix of everything, both mainly defensively, but also doesn't hurt to get forward. So
Next fixture, Nottingham Forest versus Bournemouth. So I feel like Nottingham Forest. I mean, I want to shout all 20 of their assets, all 20 of their signings. But at the moment, so far, I think I'll only shout a few of them. Morgan Gibbs-White, 34% owned. I mean, he finally got his first couple of starts, but they've been against really tough opposition, right? Spurs and Man City. So I don't think you can like properly judge him. But going eye test wise, like, he's not like playing like a deep lying midfielder or anything like that. Like, he's part of the front 3 or front 2 that's attacking, right? Sometimes on team sheets, he's basically like playing second striker in a sense. And he's played under Steve Cooper before at Swansea, etc. So he has that history, and like even his interview, he is like excited to work with the manager, all that sort of jazz. So I think it's a pick that is worth stashing if you can afford it. 34% owned. The other one is Renan Lodi, the guy from Atletico Madrid. 34% owned as well. He immediately displaced Toffolo. I think he put up negative 6.5 points at the 6-0 drubbing, so he has go-sees in him. And from what I recall, he should have scored a header versus Man City, actually. So he has the potential in him to attack well.
Yeah, he got really far forward. He was at the back post, and it was across from Nico Williams, and he should have scored.
Yeah, Nico Williams, the other ghost machine in that game.
Yep.
And then I want to just punt Bowley, 2% owned. How can you not back a guy that basically didn't show up to the game when the manager said, "Hey, I need you on the bench"?
I mean, I think he might do that at Nottingham Forest, given that they have 20 million players. So, and they will not miss him if he doesn't show up. Honestly, I'm really curious to see, like, will they even know who's on this team? Like, if me or you turned up at, like, the training ground, like, could we just walk in and be like, "Hey, I got signed this game window"?
Maybe they spin like a wheel, like in one of those game shows, and whoever's names it lands on, that's who they pick that game week.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, what about at Bournemouth, man?
Yeah, Bournemouth, I think the main name I would have called out is Tavernier. He's looked good. Like, he's looked good in every game. I think the last game he was he got more of his points from a defensive sense than in an attacking sense. But I think that is also a good thing to see, that your winger is also willing to put in a shift and get most of his points from tackles, which he had 5. So from that perspective, I think that that's a good sign, and it bodes well for their upcoming fixture run, which is a million times lighter than this opening 5 were. So having come off of playing City, Arsenal, and Liverpool back to back and conceding 16 goals on the trot, like, it was good to see that. I mean, good for them. Like, horrendous from Wolves that they couldn't put one past them.
Oh my god, so frustrating.
Yeah, but it was good to see that, and also, like, the reason I lost my head-to-head matchup, because Wolves shit the bed, and Bournemouth also shit the bed in terms of not pulling through for me.
Yeah.
But their fixture run right now: Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Newcastle, Brentford, Leicester, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham. Like, I think they have a good run of fixtures. So it'll be good to see, of course, like the Nottingham Forest game, 2 promoted teams going at each other. Of course, with entirely different squads, at least on the Nottingham Forest side, than they would have played each other in the championship last year. But I think at least the 2 clubs are familiar. It's not like, I said, like, it's a reprieve from going to these big teams. So their performance hopefully should be good. And Tavernier has been remarkable on this season. He's put up like more than 9 points in 385 games. And as I say, the points have come from different like contributions. The last game being highly skewed towards tackles. So hopefully we see a big haul from him in the next game week, and he's still only at 28% owned. The other names, go for it. Had a question?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say the other names, if it's to run through, less exciting at this point, but Solanke as the most owned player in the name, probably coming into the season with the highest profile. He's only at 41% owned. So now that he's back and hopefully fit, it'll be interesting to also see if he's capitalizing alongside with Tavernier. And it would be good to see them at least get like a consistent attacking cadence, because then that frees up, or opens up rather, some of the wing backs as well. Jordan Zamora, Adam Smith. Like, it'd be interesting to see how the entire team performs. And I mean, we talked about this before. All their assets are under 50% owned. So honestly, I'd keep an eye out on their like entire lineup if they find a little bit of form.
Yeah, for sure. So next game, Spurs versus Fulham. So Doherty is dropped under 50% owned. I still don't understand why Emerson Royal is playing football.
But he's putting up points, right? So
yeah, he is. But I feel like they can do even better. Like but that's just me saying because I'm still a Doherty owner, and I'm going to stash like like my life depends on it. Because honestly, like I still think like the moment, which I still do believe Doherty will get an opportunity to play at some point this season, he is going to be an absolute machine for points. So if you can stash, I'd say stash. Like, but that's just me. Also, another cheeky shout out to Ryan Sessegnon, who's under 50% owned now. He's 40%. I know Perisic has gotten a run of games, but Champions League is coming around the corner. And Perisic is old. Like, he's fit, but he's also old. So I think like Sessegnon will get games here and there while they do these clusterfuck of fixtures because of insert soundbite, that fucking World Cup.
Yep.
But yeah, I think he's with keep an eye on him sort of thing. What about Fulham?
Yeah, Fulham. I mean, with the assets that they already have, I feel like there isn't any single one that we would shout out. Like, I mean, we've already talked about their wing backs being important to their play, both attacking and defensively. And in reality, I think you had a stat, Sanji, that you had dropped in before where, or when we were talking before the pod, where they were outperforming their XGA. So in terms of goals against, their defense has been sound, and they are looking like a team that is on this go around built in the right form, and are capable of staying up. So that'd be one to watch. The wing backs there being Robinson and Tete, still 32% and 23% owned. On the flip side, though, I'd keep an eye out on, I mean, I feel like Mbabu fell into this camp, the new signings. Mbabu as a backup for Tete, who we thought like he looked sharp and might like fight to get a starting spot. That'd be interesting. And then the new signing, Kurzawa, who's coming in, who should be a backup for Robinson. That'd be interesting to see. And then I think the other signings, and we talked about this in the transfer bit at the top, Willian, Dan James are coming in and are going to be playing more attacking roles. So that'll be interesting to see how they bed in and how they add to their attacking lineup, because Mitchell should probably play with wingers. And if Dan James, and we know he can play, like he's a pace merchant and he literally knows how to hug that right hand wing. It'll be interesting to see if he gets his start and if he could put in some delightful crosses for the beast in the middle called Mitchell.
Is Mitrovic now a first round pick value? Like, would you be trying to trade to get him in? Like, now that they've kind of added more depth, right? To kind of fuel, I don't know, him.
I would say yes. I don't think that's a question. He's just been a beast. Like, all season, he's been a beast, and I would definitely want him in the first round. Like, him and Haaland, not to say that Salah and KDB and Kane and everybody else that was going top three. Well, I think it was some permutation of these three that was going 1, 2, 3, right? And Son, I guess. Yeah, Son definitely would have fallen out of that camp. But I think Mitro and Haaland, like, I think the knock on Mitro was, we've seen this story before. He comes up and then he doesn't perform like he did in the championship, right? Like, he's a bully in his age group almost, right? He's the big kid in his age group, so he could bully everybody else around him. But he's putting up consistent performances now. He's top of the league in aerials by a mile. Literally, he's on 35, and the next closest, Havertz and Tarkowski, are on 20. Right? Like, he is beasting and feasting in the box. And I would say that he's also shown so far to be really level-headed and not picking up silly yellow cards or being temperamental. So I think that you don't have to worry about that. Hopefully, you don't have to worry about injuries. So if he's going to be nailed on and he's going to be playing every single game, all 90 minutes, no Europe, no rotation risk, I don't see how you don't draft him in the first round or you don't try to trade for him, right?
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Next fixture. Wolves versus Southampton. So Wolves, I mean, I feel like if they keep clean sheets, then only would their centre backs kind of get double digits. So I'm a little like wary of them. Kilman 47% owned and Nathan Collins 21% owned. I saw Semedo came off on the 59th minute mark. I mean, we thought it was a lucky stroke for you. 35% owned, who's been playing really, really well, ghosting really, really well. But did he come off with an injury, or was it like a tactical thing?
I have no clue. I wasn't watching the game. He didn't get a flag and there was no news, so I would assume that it was tactical, and now everyone is upset at him. I didn't even check to see what FPL Twitter was
like the flag on FPL.
Well, no, I didn't see. I didn't check to see if FPL Twitter was complaining, but now I do a quick Google, and the first tweet I saw is somebody complaining about first tweet, FPL_tactician. Shout out to you, Andy Marting. Apart from your player on a clean sheet, apart from your player is on a clean sheet getting subbed on 59 minutes, but the ball stays in play for a minute and he walks off the pitch instead of running, and the clock ticks to 60.01. So yeah, I think people were hoping that he would get it, but he didn't get it. So I don't know what shenanigans happened there, but it seemed to be tactical, and it seemed to be very, very close, like razor thin margins. And both in FPL and in Fantrax, it showed up as 59 minutes, and I think people wept.
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing or starting, I'd definitely grab him. Maybe just stash him before that. Or get Ait Nuri and make sure you have that handcuff. And I'd probably only hold for the Southampton fixture, right? Because after that, they got Liverpool, Man City, West Ham, Chelsea. So it's not really easy after that. But, I mean, there is one person who's aging like fine wine and putting up those good ghosties.
João Moutinho!
Yeah, man. 36% owned. Like, the guy is still doing it, still causing it.
Yeah, he is.
It's crazy.
I mean, that was a shout. The first game he played this season, right? Like,
yeah.
And he went off early in that game, and our commentary was, hey, look, he's the old man on the team. If he plays, like, he's going to give it his all. Like, none of us expected him to follow up that 57 minutes with 88 minutes and 90 minutes on 3 days rest, right? So, I mean, exactly. let's see the quick turnaround to the game on Saturday. On another 3 days rest, essentially. So let's see if he can last another 90. But definitely, if he's in there, like off the back of like the hard fixtures in after the international break, it'll be interesting to see if he's still fit and firing. Because then he gets an attractive run: Nottingham, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Brentford, Brighton, and obviously we don't know what form any of the teams will be in by then. But just on paper, he looks like an attractive asset to own.
Yeah, they also signed this tall ass striker from the Bundesliga.
Yep.
Sasa.
Sasa Kalajic.
Yeah, that's why I only went with the first name, Kyle.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean, let's see how that plays out. He had a goal every 2 games.
109 minutes, I think, was his average. Per
yeah,
goal
so yeah, like let's see how that plays with Jimenez. It might be just a backup role, but it'll be interesting to see how they use a different type of asset in that starting lineup, right?
Yeah. What about Southampton?
Main name there, who I guess was the man of the match. I missed this game, but in talking to Chelsea folks, they seemed very irate with the performance. But I think somebody came out with a ridiculously high rating, and who pops up a lot in our data dump, if folks stick around, is El Yunusi. Only 4% owned, which in the grand scheme of things seems a little bit criminal. He's played in 45 games this season, and he played the entire game against Chelsea. He had 3 shots, of which 3 were in target.
Should have scored.
Yeah, like from all accounts, should have scored. Had 6 tackles, 4 clearances, 2 interceptions. I'm like, man, I look at these stats earlier and I'm like, damn, this guy was in the thick of everything. So I think that's one that I would keep an eye out on. But at the same time, we talked about this before, Ralph has been moving around with this rotation or with this starting lineup. He's been rotating, and what was working before were the tactical changes being made after like the 60-minute mark were ultimately the moves that were leading to points. But now that the team has had a little bit more time to gel, it'll be interesting to see if they get into like a nailed formation and a nailed starting 11 that we know we can always bank on certain players to perform. Outside of that, or rather along the same lines, but outside of the attackers, it's what's happening at left back. Romain Perrault came back and he also beasted. I think he had the most points in the game from a Fantrax perspective, but
18.5.
Yeah, but 18. But he also went off injured, right? So from that perspective, it'll be interesting to see if he comes back, if he retains his spot. He's literally 1% on, but the guy that was filling in on that left-hand side has been Gineppo. So let's see who's available. But I think Gineppo was my early favorite of folks to pick up when he wasn't playing like all the way in left back. He was playing left wing back. But now that they're back to a more traditional back four and Perrault came back, Gineppo starting the left back role also against United. It'd be interesting to see who plays there. Of course, there's more upside in playing an actual defender from a Fantrax perspective in that position, because then there's the added bonus of a clean sheet if they do get one. But I keep an eye out on that as well. I was going to say Lavia as well, but he also got injured. He's been good in the midfield and he got the goal, but I would exclude him from this week, but still flag him as one to keep an eye on because he got injured.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, next game, Aston Villa versus Man City. Aston Villa, no one.
Skip.
They're just
honestly.
Shite. Yeah, just skip.
Yeah. I think there's we could talk like 2 seconds about them. I don't think there's anything that necessarily stands out or is appealing about the spot that they're in. It'll be interesting to see, and we covered off the signings, how that helps them at the back, especially. I think I feel like beginning of the season or early weeks of the season, we were all talking about Buendia needing to play over Coutinho, and ultimately if they start Ings and what's happening with like their actual like tactics. But
what
honestly,
tactics?
I think until Stevie G, until Stevie G is gone, like none of these questions get answered. I don't put any personally, and I'm not a Villa fan. I put no faith in Stevie G.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible to look at.
Yeah, on the City side, I feel like the flyby will be just as quick. Like we know the assets are wholly owned, all more than 50%. We talked about Akanji as a new City centre back coming in, who, if you just want to stash a player who could end up playing on any week, especially given their current injury luck at centre back, he might not be a bad asset to target on waivers, depending on when you're listening to this. Outside of that, Ake might be coming back, but it's going to be interesting to see, of course, if he's back, because he was training, if he takes back over from Stones at centre back. Stones has been playing and getting into attacking positions, playing creator for Holland. So I don't know if Pep will risk taking him out when he has, I think, a better creator than Foden on the pitch, right? So let's see who actually starts at center back alongside Diaz.
Yeah. All right. Next fixture, Brighton versus Leicester. The first one on Sunday. So I don't know if Potter will rotate a bit, but Lamptey put up 10 points in his sub appearance, man. Kid look good. He's doing things. I feel like if you do like ghost points per minute or whatever, he'd be right up there with the top defenders. Only 39% owned, yeah. So I mean, if you can stash before lineups come up, you never know, because I mean Leicester's been dog shit anyways, so he might smash it. Lewis Dunk, 46% owned. I mean, speaking as a Dunk owner, it sucked to see that own goal go in. But, I mean, he's scored now for the season, so maybe he'll score on the other end of the pitch versus a terrible Leicester, who sucks at set pieces, or at least they did last season. And I feel like he's nailed, right? Brighton still have decent fixtures, I want to say, right?
They have
Leicester
a good
at home,
run.
Bournemouth away, Crystal Palace at home, Liverpool away, Spurs at home, and then Brentford and Nottingham. So there's, I would say at least half of those are clean sheets, like decent chance, right?
You would think 5 of the 7 or 6
Yeah.
is 5 of these 7.
Yeah. And then McAllister, Messi's doppelganger. My problem with him is like he's not putting up ghosties, but he's on penalties. But how many penalties are Brighton really gonna win?
Great question. No clue. No clue.
If you played for Manchester United, maybe. But have you guys gotten any penalties this season?
Nope.
No.
I think
No.
that those days are over. We don't have Ole.
The myth
to
is
do
gone.
whatever
Yeah.
Ole was doing. Yeah.
All
We have
right,
a new
what
man
about-
in charge. We have a new, more disciplined manager in charge that creates goals from open play. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
If it was to shift focus though to Leicester, yeah, you already covered it. Not as dog shit as Villa, but sitting at bottom of the table as of this time of recording. At the same time, coming off the game earlier today against United, Johnny Evans, given Fofana's gone, I mean, he's obviously being nailed at centre back, and it'd be interesting to see who his partner will be, but he might not be the worst asset to go after. He had his first haul against United, and that was mostly driven by like defensive actions, 7 interceptions, 4 aerials, a block shot, a clearance. So depending on the attack that he's going up against, he could haul. His current fixtures are away at Brighton, home to Villa. That's a tasty matchup. Might be the battle of who wants to get their manager sacked sooner. So right after international break, if neither of Stevie G or his former, I don't want to say Sherpa, Mr. Brendan Rodgers are gone. Somehow I don't think that they actually get along, and Stevie G or Rodgers probably says that he taught Stevie G more than he actually knows. But honestly, that could honestly be the last match for either of them, depending on how these next round of fixtures go. So that might be one that you might target, or I'd give the upper hand to Leicester. Maybe you target some Leicester assets in that game, or maybe you stay away from all of them. Outside of that, honestly, there isn't anybody else that I would shout. I know that they have new signings that probably just got done in after the deadline, so maybe keep an eye out on those folks. I know nothing about any of them, so I'd say monitor, but don't rush out to get any of their assets.
Yeah, and final fixture, this is a big one. Manchester United versus Arsenal. We don't really have assets to talk about, but we can kind of talk about the fixture, I guess.
Yep.
What are you expecting from this as a United fan? 3 wins on the bounce? No?
Yeah, 3 wins on the bunks. Like, we just need to win 1-0, man. Like, we need 1 goal and then shut up shot and don't worry about it. Honestly, I think the good things, or the positives, same starting 11 in all 3 games. Arguably, that's the same approach or the same style of play to match with Arsenal. So it'll be interesting to see who changes their approach first, or if the two end up canceling each other out. Arsenal's getting on the front foot. You covered that off in our fun facts at the top, where even when Arsenal concedes, they're really getting on the bike and like pushing to get that, I don't want to say equalizer, but that response. So I think them playing on the counter, depending on the game state, is interesting. United obviously can still play on the counter and is very good at using mostly the right-hand side with Dalot, more than we've been using the left-hand side with Malacia. So it'll be very interesting to see how the two go up against, the two styles of play go up against each other. Arsenal, of course, is still unbeaten, only conceded 4 goals, but they've been forced into making changes to that lineup based on injuries. And it's funny because they're all not in the game, they run a gameplay injuries. They're all like training ground for the most part. So, well, I guess not Partey. Was the other guy that got injured? My brain is too tired for this evening.
El Neni.
El Nene, the Egyptian. In terms
Egyptian
of injuries,
prince.
like, he lasted the game. Yeah, he lasted the game, but he got injured, or he couldn't go in the next game. Lakonga has now come in, so they're chopping and changing in terms of what that holding role, or the requirements for that holding role. So it'll be interesting to see how that then impacts Xhaka and ultimately how that forces them to shift their play. But their attackers look sharp. I think that they've just been a solid team, right? So well drilled, well disciplined, and not shy at creating chances. So it'll be a good test for United, who haven't necessarily been playing the most open. So it'll be interesting, I'd say, to see the tactics play out on the day.
Yeah. I feel like Arsenal will get the better of you guys, though. I know you guys had 3 wins on the bounce, but I feel like the opposition hasn't been the hardest. I mean, it's been necessary for, I think, Ten Hag and just getting the team settled into a system. Let's say it, right? So I don't know.
I mean, what was our 3? Our 3 was Liverpool, Southampton, and Leicester, of which 2 of them were away, and the Liverpool game at Old Trafford was coming off the back of losing to Brentford and Brighton.
4-0? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Liverpool yeah.
No, I know. And Arsenal was at Bournemouth, and they beat Fulham at home. They beat Villa at home. And they beat Leicester, and you could argue that their most difficult game was against Palace opening night, opening game of the season, and that was a stern test. And the 2-0 wasn't really a 2-0 because of the Gay own goal. And I don't know, man. I don't think Arsenal has been tested at all. That's just my thing. I think
they haven't. They haven't faced any of the top 6 teams yet, right? So
yeah, they're frauds. I think they're frauds. Arsenal frauds. There you go. I want Arsenal fans to come for me. Come for me, Arsenal fans.
Awesome. Okay, so that's all we wanted to talk in terms of picks and covering the fixtures, etc. So what we'll do now is take our halftime pint, and then we'll be back with questions and data dump. So we'll see you in a bit. And we are back. Okay, so we've got a couple of Twitter questions from some of our loyal fans, friends, listeners. So I will read through the questions, and Kyle will let you take a crack at answering them. So our first question is from no one. But at Chirag_Verma, thank you for submitting your question. His question is Julian Alvarez worth rostering? Put up a, smashing 31 Fantrax points this game week with his 2 goals? I mean, he looked really, really good. His finishes were amazing. So, Kyle, would you be rostering him?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. At this point, going into this game week, everybody in FPL and Fantrax were obviously expecting him to start. But the debate was, will Haaland be benched? So will he start for Haaland? And the past data points were suggesting that was the straight swap that Pep was doing at the end of games. But they both started, which was actually my bet. I wish I could have bet on that one, right? Because I called out in the chat before that I think they both start together. And to your point, he smashed it, 5 shots, and skipping ahead a little bit to the data dump. 5 shots, 3 on target. Arguably could have had a hat trick from the sounds of things. I didn't catch the full game, especially second half. I turned it off. I switched and went and did something else. But I think that he's worth rostering at 80%. Most people agree. The question, of course, is do you start him or not? Right? He's currently 48% start percentage. So I think he's one of these players that you always have to have a spot for on your bench. And as somebody who drafted him and then dropped him doing my shenanigans, if folks have been following along in our league, I might come to regret this. At this point, I don't. But I think that over the course of the season, he definitely looks like he could put up more points than, dare say, Riyad Mahrez, who was the top goal scorer for City last year.
Yeah, great point. Okay, thanks again for your question. We'll go on to the next one from Robbie P at A Team of Caras. And his question is Haaland, I should say, is he now your 1-1 overall pick in the game?
It's an easy answer. If we were doing a redraft or if you had a mid-season draft, I think the answer is 1,000% yes. You still wouldn't take KDB over him or Salah? I mean, Salah's been doing well and he's not even getting attacking returns that often. So Yeah, I agree. I think that, as I said, like there is still negative regression that could happen towards something that is more expected. But in reality, I say either doing a redraft right now, like it would be hard. Like whoever has got number one pick will feel the pressure of taking him because you don't want to be that guy. Like you don't want to be the guy that didn't take Haaland number one, right? Like it's the same thing in FPL. If you didn't draft him, I didn't even check, but I'm sure he probably is up to the highest owned asset at this point. Like he's somebody that, and I made this mistake, like you have to captain every week. It's just one of these things where you kind of need to have him in your team. And I'd say you would more expect that he would score a hat. Like you would probably get better odds on him scoring a hat trick in every game than not scoring a goal in a game, right? Like that's how out there he looks. So honestly, I think I'd probably still have to take him at 1-1 if you had it, right? Just because you probably couldn't live down the shame of not taking him.
Yeah. Second highest owned asset in FPL. So
still behind Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, trust in Jesus, right? So
yeah, I mean, he's given no reason for people to sell him, right? So that's a hard one to shake out at a number one spot.
Yeah. I mean, even Jesus, like, where would you be drafting him? Because I got him as my 12th pick, right? Basically. Would he be up higher than for you in the draft if we were doing it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I know this wasn't the question. If you're probably doing a quick redraft of just
like top 5
whatever.
picks. Does Jesus make top 5 for you?
Instant reaction, I would probably have to go Haaland 1-1. I'd probably go Salah 1-2.
Agreed.
Because he's creating and he is not like ultimately getting goals and assists like at the rate that he probably should. I would probably go at 3 KDB because somebody has to feed the beast that is Haaland.
Yeah.
After that, I would imagine that I'd go Mitrovic because we already covered him.
Yeah.
Nailed on.
Yeah.
Like the team probably is performing better than folks originally expected. So just aerials and shots and key passes, like I'd probably go for him. And then the 5th pick might be Harry Kane. I think Son isn't performing, but Kane looks like if he's going to perform, and Perisic looks nailed on, and Kulusevski looks good, and you would imagine that Son is going to show up at some point. So that's probably how I would go 5, like right now. But honestly, Jesus will be just on the outside. As I said, just on the back of me thinking he's played really good fixtures. He probably has performed to expectation. I think him and Martinelli have probably performed to expectation, which is remarkable when you look at them basically being tied on points and currently ranked 4 and 5 overall. But Odegaard, I would say, is grossly outperformed. So, yeah, I think that a bit of the Arsenal like overall scores are high because of the fixture run that they've been on. And if they played easy fixtures, that means that they have hard fixtures to come afterwards. So,
yeah, fair enough. All right. Thanks, listeners, fans, friends, for your questions. So now what we'll do is move into our final segment, which is the data dump.
Ay, 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 ay. Fantasy with the Banta Boys.
So, Kyle, you composed the data dump again. Thank you so much for your lovely effort and your filters of the data, etc. So, I'll let you run the segment and I will give you some comments and feedback.
Yeah, let's do it. I think from our data dump, for folks that have been here, we would have covered off some of these players in the like previews, and it would have come up a little bit in the listener questions. But there's a flyby of game week 5 and who were the top performers across our like standard scoring categories. So kicking off with key passes, we had Salah at 6. Following up Salah, we had Gundogan and Pedro Neto with 4. And then we had 10 players with 3 this game week. So it wasn't a ridiculously high scoring game week across the board. But we had 10 players on 3. A couple of them had assists, which were Aronson and Saka, but the majority of them didn't. And that was Shea Adams, Harrison, Odegaard, Perisic, Andy Robertson, Coutinho, Nico Williams, Bruno Fernandes. And Benrahma also had 3 key passes, but he only played 66 minutes. So if you were to go through this list, were there any things that jumped out to you, Sanji?
I mean, still going on with Salah just creating so many chances. It's such a different player to when Mane was there, right? Salah was usually just in the shots category, never in key passes. So, yeah, it's crazy to see him putting up these ghost points. Maybe it's a bit surprising not to see Trent up there. You're seeing a bit more Robbo, right? The other guys seem, I guess, usual suspects. Like, I feel like if Gundo's in there, Bernardo Silva's in there, they like either one of them will pop up. I guess maybe that's because KDB's didn't start the game. He's not in this list. Neco Williams just creating chances in a 6-0 loss. Like, it's still impressive, and I can't wait to see how he's going to perform in easier fixtures, right? Especially the one coming up against Bournemouth. Your boy Aronson is starting to put up points now, though I don't know if this is like 1 point one game week, near 20 the other game week, right?
You would imagine though, with Rodrigo being out injured, that he'll play centrally and he should get a chance to create more. Because I don't know, these games were all staggered start, so it's hard to look back at when these key passes were, but I would imagine that he probably got them after Rodrigo went off with his dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Should definitely look that up. I mean, you could probably confirm that on whoscored.com, right? They've got that slider timeline thing, so you can always look at the key passes for when that injury happened, etc. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's anything else that's too obvious that kind of jumped out.
I'd say one last thing on this list. No Spurs, eh? Outside of Perisic, Yeah, but I was gonna say Kulusevski and Kane and Son and
West Ham
Spurs
well,
is
man.
still.
They should have won that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Spurs is still a fraud team. I don't know.
We all have our fraud teams. Maybe it's all these teams from North London.
Maybe.
Shifting gears. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. If we were to shift gears to shots and shots on target, though, also it's not the most high shot or high performing week in this category, but on 5 we had 5 players. So Alvarez had 5 shots, who we covered off a little bit earlier. 3 of those were on target. He scored, of course, 2 goals. Luis Diaz, Jimenez, and Gabriel Martinelli had 5 shots as well, of which 2 were on target. And Roberto Firmino had 5 shots, of which only 1 of them was on target. 4, we had Jesus and Haaland, and both of them had 3 shots on target. Haaland, of course, getting the hat trick. And then Gabriel Magalhaes, which is mind-blowing, had 4 shots. Harry Kane, alongside Harry Kane, Olise, and Zaha from Crystal Palace. So there you go. 8 Crystal Palace shots, of which only 2 of them were on target from these 2 combined players. And then on 3, we had El Yunusi from Southampton, of which he had 100% efficiency. Mitro and Odegaard both had 3 shots, of which 2 were on target. Souček, KDH, Kieran Dewsbury Hall, and Madison, so 2 Leicester players, also had 3 shots, of which only 1 was on target. And then Jared Bowen, Neto, and Saka had 3 shots with none on target. So I call it El Yunusi. That's 100% on target rate. When I look back then, I think Adam Armstrong also had 2 of 2 on target. And when I look back at the overall performance, Southampton had 7 of their 9 on target. So that's good efficiency from them. Something that Chelsea did not have. I think Chelsea was only 3 of 10 or 4 of 10 on target.
That's just proof of how trash we were as well. And that's the main.
Yeah, well, you have Aubameyang.
Oh my
So,
god, don't
there you
even
go.
get me started on this. Oh god. So standouts. I mean, obviously Gabriel Magalhaes, right? A defender being amongst all the forwards and midfielders. I mean, we do know as a centre back, he does have massive goal threat. So I mean, you feel free to punt on him, I guess, on his day. But from what I remember, he's not great at ghost points. What else is there? I guess I mean the Wolves players being up there shouldn't surprise you, right? Because Bournemouth are trash as well. In terms of the City guys, it's pretty much their forwards, no one else. Like none of the other midfielders or any of that are on that list. What else is there to kind of jump out at? Salah is not on any of this.
Yep. Again, that was one that was very out there
That's
as
crazy.
well. Like I feel like every week when we go through it, it's the same usual suspects. Salah up there with key passes and Harrison, and then Salah especially no shots. I say you see Luis Diaz, who is a shot merchant. Like that guy doesn't see a
He's
ball
so
that
greedy.
he can't hit. He's just ready to hit it, man. Like it's insane. But Salah's not getting into the positions right now to be taking these shots. And you would imagine that with Darwin Núñez coming back from injury, he still isn't going to be taking a lot of those shots. So as I say, Salah in a different role as creator, it'll be interesting to see. I haven't looked at Liverpool's overall efficiency stats, but that might be some homework that we leave the listeners with to go and take a look at efficiency stats and how they are translating or trending. Because I think that's one of these things that will be interesting to observe now that, as I say, we had a hearty sample size pre-international break. So if there are FPL listeners, it might also play into people's wildcard strategy and captain strategy and all this stuff as well, right? Where they're less concerned about ghost points and more concerned about just overall big hauls.
I mean, I know this is an FPL base, but now Salah's going to be better at the bonus because he's doing all that ghosty
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. Yeah, so exactly, right? So more bonus, but he might be, and that might actually be your strategy if you want to set and forget. You always know that you'll get a steady floor from a Salah performance, right? But you might sacrifice Salah and scoring a hat trick. So
Yeah.
game of strategy there. If it was to shift gears to accurate crosses, non-corners as we play with, pretty dry in this category this week. I feel like all these players already had a shout. The only one that didn't was Tsimikas, who had 2 in 18 minutes. But running through the laundry list, like Perisic had 3, 7 players overall were on 2, of which a couple others didn't play the full 90 in Aronson at 75 and Robbo on 70. And then Soufal, Cucurella, Nico Williams and Raheem Sterling also having 2 crosses. So a couple of Chelsea names, a couple of Liverpool names, a Tottenham name, a lot of wing backs. I feel like this has been pretty consistent to start the season, but as I said, nothing really from an outlier perspective in that category this week. Anything there, or can we just skip ahead to the next categories?
I mean, again, no Trent.
Yeah, fair.
Right?
That's a good call.
A usual suspect. No City players as well. I guess they didn't need to cross into the box. They just walked it in.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just let's play some triangles. Let's do some things off the training ground, right?
Yeah. I mean, from the eye test, Perisic, doesn't surprise me. He has a gem of a cross, but he can't defend. So, it's pretty much his fault why the goal went in. He wasn't paying attention on that throw in, etc. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it seems straightforward. I mean, Sterling is a little surprising given the fact that he plays striker, false nine or whatever. It's a little worrying to see your striker being the second tied creative one. You'd expect to see Mount up there. You'd expect
but
to
he has
see
Aubameyang
maybe
now.
Aspi. Oh, pardon?
But he has Aubameyang now.
Oh, God.
The crosses will hit a target, man.
That's the only good
There you
thing
go.
that comes out of that signing. Me being able to scream that out. Oh, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
we can go on to
I agree with your points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your points there. I think that it'll be interesting to see how all these categories change post the last deadline day signings,
Transfers.
right? Like, honestly, the other thing, or transfers, like the other thing that I would call out for all the categories, the main categories that we usually cover, key passes, shots, and crosses, is outside of Bruno in terms of key passes, no United players, man. It's very sad. We don't see any United players in any of these categories. Like, honestly, our performance on all ghosties is terrible. It's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty bad.
if we're going to win by one goal and shut up shop, like, I feel like the defenders might be the way to go. So that's just a call from me. Shifting gears to the other random categories that I know other folks are keen to hear us talk about. I think tackles won. No big outliers there, but a lot, I'd say, names that we already kind of covered. And El Yunusi, who had 6 tackles. Hickey at Brentford. I actually asked someone at work that was sitting next to me today as a Brentford fan who, when his team was demolishing mine, was humble enough to not rub it in when I sent him a text. And I was saying, I sent him a text asking if he was celebrating. He was like, I'm not going to rub it in now. So I appreciate him for being humble. But I asked him about Hickey today. He was like, man, that guy is so good. I didn't get the whole dossier, but he seems like and I feel like you talked about it before, one of these players who could be a gem for folks to pick up on waivers or in free agency. Outside of that, it was interesting to see some typical attackers also putting in a shift. So in Tavernier and McNeil, they had 5 tackles apiece. So defending from the front, which I'm sure their managers like to see, as well as Decore on 5, and then Joe Polinia, Suchek, Pascal Stroik, Sumare, and Dalot on 4. So as I say, no big outliers. A couple of attackers or more attacking players putting in shifts and defending from the front. So I think that that's something that's good to see, depending on the head-to-head matchup, that some of these players might help their Fantrax score by, as I say, putting in work on the other side of the pitch, right? So that's what I think about that category. If I was to scan the list, just on time, is there anything else that jumps out? I think dispossession is nothing there. I guess not interceptions.
Really. Yeah, I mean,
dispossessions,
like
Johnny Evans.
All these usual guys with the dispossessions is just people that are pretty much creators on the ball, right? Maybe just Kyle Walker-Peters, if that has to be anything for dispossessions. I mean, he's a bit of an attacking threat, right? So maybe, I don't know if you can make anything of that.
That's a good call.
Yeah, interceptions, like you were saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say interceptions, Johnny Evans coming out on top, right? Like, I mean, we talked about him putting up his first points haul, but that was interesting to see. Of course, the name that we covered off. And I feel like we should do a pod about him. Nico Williams, now that fixtures are turning, like, it'll be interesting to see if he can get his attacking return, right? Because he is literally everywhere on the pitch. Looks so bright and so sharp. Like, I don't want to compare him to like Livramento or like somebody, like, I feel like he's one of these gems who he's not obviously not out on loan, but like is given like a significant role in a mid to lower table team and putting up the goods, right?
Yeah, I'm planning to start him in FPL if that counts for anything. I'd start him in Fantrax, obviously, but yeah, he's doing really well.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
And then running through your lists, like top of clearances in Joachim Andersen, who we would yell and scream from the rooftops that should be added. Dribbles, Mitro with 5 dribbles. I would say that was surprising to me.
He's looking fit, man.
Props to him, man.
Yeah, definitely. Not too surprising. Not too surprising. And the other suspects also kind of look, I guess, it makes sense sort of thing. Again, like block shots, nothing too surprising. I think Mings came out the highest with 4 of them. Mitro, again, you was talking about of how much of a aerials merchant he is, right? Topping the list again this game week, 7 of them. The others, I guess, aren't like too surprising. It's either strikers or centre backs. And then foul suffered again. Mitro is just, getting fouled amongst the other usual suspects like Sterling, Zaha, and Jesus. So yeah, I mean everything kind of just makes sense. I mean, I did like to see though, like at the start of this segment category, whatever, with the tackles won by the attacking players of El Yunusi, McNeil, and Tavernier. That is definitely a nice side to their game that, you know, you might want to exploit in terms of picking them up as an asset because they have like another route to ghosties or whatever. But yeah, other than that, that's about all that we kind of wanted to talk about. Kyle, we made it 1:30, even shorter.
Nailed it. And as usual, I'm about to go and do another NFL draft.
Really?
Like the degenerate that I am, I'm right on the clock.
How many fantasy games are you playing right now?
Don't even ask me.
Like, okay,
said, in my classic degenerate behavior
for all of these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them matter more than others. Like I say, I want to try as many different formats and rules, and I want to see how other people play their games, right? So, right now I'm pretty capped out. Like let's see if I survive. In a couple of weeks, I might just not care about some of these leagues, and I'll still be a good sport, obviously, and set lineups and the works. But I know when I'm in the fight versus not.
I gotta drag you into IPL fantasy next season.
No, you see, that's it. Like this is, I mean, of course, people might drop. No, but that's fine. But IPL, I think I tried. There was another. Was it Cricket World Cup that you guys did like last year? And I tried it for a little bit.
Did you play that with us?
I say, actually, I set up a team. I'll always set up a team. You give me any fantasy league, I'll set up a team. I play 2 different versions of F1 fantasy, and I have no clue what I'm doing in either of them. Like I mean, I follow F1 enough to know, but the games have no real variety. I'm just like curious why they have a lot of actual like teams. I don't even know. Like they have like millions of registered teams, not as much as FPL, and it follows the same format. But there's like a shit ton, man, in like the official F1 fantasy leagues. So honestly, it's interesting to just see what matters to other people, and just understand why people care about these things. And I don't have to care about it as much as other people. I'm not in it to win it with every single league, but it's a peek behind the curtain, and at least educates me to what the heck other people care about.
Yeah.
The official F1 league, which is a little bit different because you could set up multiple actual teams, even or lineups rather, is 1.55 million teams.
Interesting. Yo, FPL hit 10 million, man. So fantasy.
I know, I saw that as well. So my question is, and this is us talking shop a little bit, is like, how big do we think Fantrax is, and how big should we aim to make? To use our platform to make Fantrax bigger. Like, what's the number that we should aim to grow the community towards?
Actually, how can we even poll like how many active like leagues there are, teams there are? Fantrax must have those numbers, surely, right?
Well, there you go. This is your PSA, your public call out to somebody in the community who's still listening at the end of the pod that might know a fun way of us sizing the actual like subset. Because I would imagine we could probably get to how big is OFBL easier than getting to how big Fantrax is. But maybe that's it. Maybe there's our call to just other listeners, creators, contributors in the community. Maybe it's something that we just want to do for shits and giggles to see, hey, like, how big is this community that we are a tiny part of?
Yeah. I think it would definitely be a number that will grow season after season because, let's be honest, the draft community in the OFPL game is neglected by the platform, I want to say. I chat to boys and I even play it, and it's a fucking terrible UI. Just to put waiver claims and stuff, oh my god, it's the most tedious process that you have to basically start over from scratch every single time, set filters, search names, put in claim, restart all over again. Like, it's a pain in the ass. And I just feel like Fantrax is like one of those free platforms that also gives you the data that other fantasy managers and game players crave and pay money for. And I'm like, if it can offer you like for free and you can play it at the same time for free, like why not? But at the same time, it comes with its hiccups, right? Every now and then, Fantrax will throw out like random crashes or green flags, which we recently discovered is a new thing also in this platform. Yeah, so definitely, I think that's one of the things that if you're listening to this right now, like, and you have the answer, let us know. If not, I think what we'll do is maybe slide into some DMs and try to gauge that number and see, like, because yeah, it's a fantastic community, it's a fantastic platform. I think it's just a much better way to play the draft side of the EPL. So yeah. Other than that, any final thoughts, final notes? I mean, you're rock bottom of our league now. Worried or too early to say?
No, I mean, folks probably listening to this after waivers have cleared, or depending on timing, maybe your waivers haven't cleared. So it'll be interesting to see the bidding war on Anthony and the other new assets who are in the game now before this next game week. It's funny because, of course, I wouldn't expect. I mean, let's see if any of them play, or if any of them start, rather. That'll be interesting to see. But I want to see how many. I want to see these stories on Twitter of the ridiculous bidding wars for these new assets. As the person who built up the biggest war chest, like overspent a little bit on Isak this week. I mean, just because I could. And now we'll see if I have a sound enough game plan to get Anthony or some of the other, or Alba or whoever is attractive and new to the player pool this waiver period. So good luck to everybody out there, and may the odds be in your, or your luck be in your favor, depending on where you're at in like waiver priority or how much ever fab you still have left.
Yep. Good luck with all of that. If you have any questions, as always, tag us, start a conversation, like Joe says, from the Draft Society, and just, have fun. Other than that, we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.